Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Undefined. Today, I am very excited to talk to Abe Partridge. Now, Abe is a man of many talents. He is a singer-songwriter. He just got back from a big tour. He had a variety of not only solo dates, but he played a co-headlining kind of show with Jack Barksdale for a lot of the year. But you are also an artist. You do traditional art and photography and field recording. Abe has a podcast that he put out a few years ago called Alabama Astronaut, where he talks about serpent handling in churches and his whole journey going into that. And he's just so cool. And I'm so excited to talk to you and learn more about your story. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Bella?
I'm doing good. So, when researching your work, I was very impressed because I'm used to kind of like learning about musicians. They got into musician, like singer songwriter at an early age, and then like they played gigs and like music was their main thing. But you had so many different things. I want to kind of in music. You didn't really get into music until like the mid 2000s, correct? Like, because you were working as a pastor and you had kind of a different career route, and you served as a veteran, and music was something you didn't pursue much later. So I want to know kind of your life leading up to that. And what ultimately made you get into music? I know you have a heavy religious background. Did you mainly listen to kind of gospel and religious music growing up, or like I want to know more about that?
Yeah, well, in a nutshell, I didn't grow up in the church. I grew up listening to rock and roll music. The first record I ever heard and liked was called Nevermind by Nirvana.
Hmm.
And that was when I was about 12 or 13 or something. And I got into like grunge and punk and stuff. And then whenever I was 18, I had a religious experience that put me in the Independent Fundamental Baptist Church. And I left Mobile. I went to four Bible colleges in 4 years. I married my wife, Kathy, that I met at the third Bible college on the day after I graduated from the fourth one. And then we settled in North Georgia for about 5 years, or maybe 3 years, I say. And then I took a church up in Middlesboro, Kentucky, and started pastoring it when I was 25. And then whenever I was 26, 27 years old, I started having a lot of struggles with all of that, and had a collapse of my theological set that I had built inside my brain, and I started writing songs and painting and stuff. And then I moved back to Mobile, Alabama, and into my mama's house when I was 27 years old, and I joined the military when I was 28. Then I went off to participate in a war when I was 33, and I came
Wow.
home when I was 34. And then I started playing music when I was 35. I started playing my music in public in 2000 and 15, the end of 2015. Um, yeah, I had just turned 35 years old. And now
Wow.
that was like 9 years ago. No, that was 10 years ago. So
Mhm.
yeah.
That's so interesting. And thank you for your service, by the way. In your time when you were serving, were you, because you had gotten into songwriting a little bit before that, while you were overseas, did you write at all? Was that something that kind of helped you? Like, was music on your mind at all during that time, or was it kind of after you got back something that you kind of found comfort in?
Yeah, no, I wrote a bunch when I was over there. Yeah, I wrote a ton of you know, lyric, so a few songs, but a bunch of just, lyrics and poetry and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, ever since I was about 20, I was about 27 years. Ever since I've been about 27, 26 or 27 years old, I've always wrote, you know. But so yeah, when I was in the desert, I did write a lot of things.
That's awesome. That so you mentioned like punk rock and Nirvana was kind of your gateway into music as a young kid and a teenager. What kind of shaped was there anything that you would listen to like in your more like early 20s, mid 20s, or like when you were learning to develop music more that kind of helped you and inspired you in the way that you are a singer songwriter and guitar player? Because I know what you do is I think there's definitely I think in a lot of I've said this with some of Americana music, I think there is kind of like punk elements to some of this like acoustic like Americana singer songwriter, especially like with some of the lyrics that you do, and you have a lot of humor as well as like blending serious topics. But were there any, like, particular artists kinda outside of that, or rock and roll scene that really kind of helped you be like, "Oh, this is, like, what I wanna write songs like, or this is how I kinda wanna play?"
Yeah, whenever yeah, I grew up listening to rock and roll, but then when I turned 18, the Independent Fundamental Baptist Church, they don't like rock and roll music at
Mhm,
all. And so when I started going to their colleges, they were very regimented and strict, and they didn't allow rock and roll music and stuff like that. And but what they did have was a lot of uh, like bluegrass gospel music, and
mhm.
so I bought a banjo when I was 18 years old,
Wow.
and taught myself to play using a book written by this banjo picker named Earl Scruggs.
Mhm.
And so I started playing in the church, and then when I was up in Kentucky, whenever I was going through my crisis in the pastorate up there. It coincided with the advent of high-speed internet access into
Yeah.
Middlesboro, so I found YouTube around the same time. Well, I had really grown obsessed with this banjo picker by the name of Roscoe Holcomb when I was in the church there. I really
Mhm,
liked his pick, and he had recorded some records with Folkways back in the '60s. And before the internet, you couldn't find hardly any video of people like that. Like, no one, it was so obscure, you couldn't go to a record store and find this kind of thing. So
mhm,
when YouTube came along, I started looking up videos of Roscoe Holcomb to figure out how he was playing the banjo because he had this weird style.
mhm.
And then whenever I was doing that, I came across videos of him playing at the Newport Folk Festival in the '60s with Bob Dylan. And then I heard Bob Dylan for the first time as a
Uh,
as a struggling independent fundamental Baptist preacher trying to make sense out of his life and out of his future and out of God and everything. And I heard him singing "Blowing in the Wind," and it was mind blowing. And then from Bob Dylan, then I learned about Townes Van Zandt and John Prine, and so I really fell into that rabbit hole. And then I started writing songs myself, inspired by all of that.
Wow, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
I had a similar like I didn't get into the Towns Van Zandt rabbit hole until like earlier this year. I had like
Yeah.
always heard his name, but then I big Jason Isbell fan, but he covered Poncho and Lefty, and I was like, that was always one of my favorite songs, but I never like and I listened to his original version, but I never did like the deep dive. And so earlier this year I did that and with John Prine as well. And I was like, oh my gosh, like so good. It is very much like a life-changing thing to discover like music like that, especially Towns. Have you seen his documentary that they did called Be Here to Love You? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it gave me
Yeah, it's one
chills.
of
Yeah.
my favorite, yeah, music documentaries for sure.
Yeah, it's haunting. And kind of wanted to kind of talk about that. So, like, you talked about like the bluegrass music in the church, and then finding all of these singer-songwriters. When you were working in the church, was there kind of a big like music community there? Would bands come and play during church, or were your churches like not that type of thing?
I pastored a small church at our very peak, we had about 50 or 60 people. It was a small congregation. I basically, you just play, you play with the people that are there, the
Mhm.
people that you have. You know, yeah, there's so many different kinds of churches, you know, but especially in the American South. But ours was that little tiny, you know, kind of a small church thing where
Mhm.
everybody just plays the instruments that they know how to play, that kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. And when did you learn how to play guitar? Because you said you did you learn how to play banjo first and then did you pick up guitar later?
Yeah, yeah. I taught
Wow.
myself guitar really as a necessity so I could lead singing because you can't hardly lead singing with a banjo, you know. So somebody had to get up there and lead, you know, hymn singing and stuff, uh, hymns, you know, stuff in the
Hmm.
church, and the guitar is much more easy to lead music with that way than a banjo is.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know many people that had learned to play banjo before guitar. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, and you know, especially because I grew up listening to rock and roll, which was
Hmm.
all electric guitar, you know, but when I was a kid, I was more interested in playing ball and stuff than I was playing music. So I didn't really take an interest until you know, till I was 18 and already in school in Bible school.
Hmm.
And
And
banjo had like this appeal. Like the first time I saw it, I was like, whoa, you know, this is amazing. I think, you know, I was aware of it as a kid. You know, I
mhm.
mean, I was aware of a banjo, but like, I didn't know anybody that played one. And
Yeah.
then when I first saw somebody actually playing one, I was in Chattanooga at a Bible school up there, and this boy from North Carolina uh, was in the same dorm as I was,
Mhm.
and he was playing the 5 string banjo, and I was like, oh man, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen, you know. So yeah, that's how that happened.
I can relate to that though too in a way because I grew up on kind of more like rock and roll alternative. Like I was listening to Nirvana when I was 12 years old too and things like
Yeah,
that. And I didn't get because I grew up in Florida, but then I moved to Mississippi. My parents moved to Mississippi when I was in freshman in college. And so I didn't really get into this kind of style of music until I was like 21, 22, and then I didn't even think about like banjo and then like the mandolin, like
yeah.
speaking of bluegrass, like how cool the mandolin is. Like I just saw Green Sky Bluegrass, they came here in Tuscaloosa, and I've like been like kind of dipping my toes in like the bluegrass stuff over the past couple years. I was like, this is incredible. Like I think when you're not involved in that music and like how wide of like the country, whatever southern music scene is, you're missing out on all these different instruments and sounds, and it's a fun rabbit hole to go under.
Oh yeah, 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 absolutely. I think, and you know, I think this kind of music is an older, it's an old, it's, I mean, I notice even I go to tons of festivals. I mean, this, you know,
Mhm.
that's what I do. I travel around. I'm in this community all the time, and I feel like this music, it, it's found later. You know, people are mostly find it later in life. I mean, I did, you know,
Yeah.
I found it in my mid 20s.
Hmm.
But um, different art forms hit, you know, they hit people at different times in their life, I guess.
Yeah, and I think and this has come up in previous conversations on the show as well. I think part of it is that like a lot of this music is songwriter based, but it's about lived experiences, and a lot of those kind of experiences are more kind of emotionally mature. When you would maybe listen to stuff like, there's sure there are plenty of young kids that listen to Bob Dylan, but like, Townes Van Zandt or like John Prine, like, yeah, of course, younger people can listen to it, but I feel like especially like once you hit your 20s, it's more of like, oh, you're feeling kind of emotions in a deeper way and you can kind of connect with that more. Whereas like, the Nirvana and the rock and roll and the punk stuff, that's typical, like, when you're going through adolescence and you're dealing with
Yep.
managing your emotions for the
Yeah.
first time and anger, and like that's a good outlet to air it out. I feel like this stuff is definitely more as like you're aging, you're trying to figure out life. I feel like is when this music comes in. Like that's when it came in for me. Like
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good, great observation. I feel like you put words to the thing that I feel.
Oh, thank
That's
you.
true.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk a little bit about more about the festival stuff. So, like I mentioned earlier, you've had a really cool year with a bunch of different touring, and you've done a few festivals. I know you are known for playing Laurel Cove. That was a big standout performance for you, and then you've also did Healing Appalachia this year. I want to hear about those, and were there any other cool festival experiences that you got to do this year? And your art is
Um,
involved with them as well. It's not just your music, because at Healing Appalachia, you had a booth for your art.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, but most of all that just comes from. I mean, I've been basically on the road since 2016, full time since March of 2019, and I just got tons of friends. And, Healing Appalachia, that's Tyler Childers Festival. And, Tyler Childers has always been real nice to me. And I've done artwork for his records. And
Yeah, I was
uh,
gonna bring that up.
yeah, and he was really cool to have me up there and participate in Healing Appalachia this year. And they took my picture and put it in Rolling Stone.
Oh, that's cool.
That was cool. Yeah, and Laurel Cove is one of my favorite weekends every year. They've had me. I don't know how many years in a row now. I think 4 or 5 or something. But um, they let me program the Sunday morning thing. So I have my own little Sunday morning thing that I do up there.
Cool. What is it? Because I've seen coverage of the festival and I've seen a lot of pictures. And I remember, I think it was either this year or last year, like I saw the video of the red clay strays like playing in the creek and everybody was in the water. And I just thought
Yeah.
that was so cool. I want to make the trip down there eventually, but I want to know more about like that festival and your Sunday day that they had you doing.
Yeah. Well, it's in Bell County, Kentucky, which is happens to be the county where I pastored.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's almost like a homecoming for me. It's that county is where I discovered art. It's where I started writing music. It's where I started painting. It's really where the version of me that exists today was born.
Hmm.
So I kind of feel like a man with two homes. My body was born in Mobile, but my soul was born in Bell County, and so it's almost like a homecoming, and they know that about me, and I've got such a connection with that place up there, and so I go there. But they have it at a state park. I think it's called the Pine Mountain State Park, but it's amazing. It's like a natural amphitheater with a big stone face, with a
Yeah.
and it's like a Appalachian Red Rocks or something. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
There's way too many. There's way more people want to come than can come. So they sell out the tickets almost immediately, and they have these really killer lineups. And I get to do the Sunday morning programming because, of my work with the serpent handling churches. A lot of my work is with a lot of there's a lot of my work with the serpent handlers has been based a lot around that area in that county and in the surrounding counties. There's several serpent handling congregations that I've worked with, and so I've actually been able to put on some of the first public performances of that kind of music that's ever
Yeah.
been done. And yeah, we sell tickets to it, and it's just really a great time.
Yeah, and I wanted to know, I'm really fascinated about the servant handling stuff because I honestly I did not know what that was. And then the musical ties to it until I was doing research. And that was a big project that you did around the time of COVID was investigating that and then doing field recordings and recording some of those songs. And you also mentioned, so you didn't really grow up too much in the church. So when did that interest of you took time off, of course, like being a pastor and you got into music. When did serpent handling kind of go into the picture? Was that something that you had an interest in when you were in like Bible college, or was that something that you were just always interested in, and then when you had the time to do it, you wanted to research it?
Yeah, well, when I was a pastor in Kentucky myself, when I was a Baptist preacher, I had met another preacher there in Middlesboro by the name of Jamie Coots, and he was a serpent handling preacher there in Kentucky. They had a large church not far from where my church was. And I met him there, and he prayed with me because at that time I think he could tell that I mean I was in a bad way,
Mhm.
and I think he was able to sniff that out, you know. And so he said, if you ever need anything, call me. And he was very kind to me. But I thought he was, back in those days, I was very committed to a certain religious dogma that was like, it didn't allow for people like him, you know. So I thought he was crazy at that time in my life.
Mhm.
But he did come across as a very kind and genuine person. Well, then when I left the church, I mean, I left the church altogether. Uh, I didn't go to church again, and so I I was done with that, all of that. I didn't care to do any of that or go back to the church or anything like that.
Mhm.
Well, I saw Jamie Coots on television, maybe about 5 years after I left the church. I saw him on a National Geographic program,
Wow.
and then I was like, oh, there's that guy, you know.
Hmm.
And then when I came back from participating in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, I was at Keesler Air Force Base, and there was a TV on, and there was a news flash, and it said serpent handling preacher dies from a snake bite, and it was Jamie Coots, and I saw his picture on the TV, and I remember I was just like, I remembered that he had, you know, a wife and kids. And I
Mhm.
was like, oh man, it's so tragic, you know. And well, then I started playing my music. And my friend, another great Alabama musician who you should probably have if you haven't already, his name, guy named Will Stewart. Me and Will Stewart were out on the road with a guy, Jerry Joseph, out going down the West Coast.
Mhm.
And Will recommended me a book called um, Salvation on Sand Mountain by Dennis Covington. And I read that. And inside that book was Jamie Cooks. And I read that about, it was in March of 2020 when the pandemic was beginning.
Wow.
And so I was like, I'm going to go find that church up in Middlesboro and see what happened to it after Jamie died. And I went there in June, I think, of 2020.
Mhm.
And then I heard music at that church. I found the church and I heard the music in the church, and then that led me down. I mean, I'm still going to this day. I mean, it's been over 5 years at this point. I've been going.
Wow.
Yeah, I still go up there and I record, and I'm working on a project that's going to bring all that music into a record that people can buy, and it'll be like a, you know, the first record of its kind to document that the music from within that faith.
Well, that is so fascinating. And you wrote a book about that as well, correct? About your time and learning all about the serpent handling.
I had an art show. It's not it's a little bit about that, but it's more just like a bunch of portraits
Oh,
like I painted a bunch of portraits from within that faith, and
yeah,
I wrote
yeah.
stories. And the Alabama Contemporary Arts Center had me a big art show back in 23. But by the way, it's going to be coming to Tuscaloosa in March
Oh, when?
at the Kentuck Art Museum.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be putting up my exhibit called "With Signs Following." So it's called "With Signs Following: Portraits and Stories from the Serpent Handling Faith." It'll be on display with Kentuck in March.
So, kind of talking about more of the serpent stuff, I thought it was interesting. Did you know that there was music tied to it when you were originally um, doing the research about that? Or like you did you not know until you went to the church?
Yeah, when I went, I mean, I knew that they played music there, but I did not know that it was distinctively different than other churches. And then whenever I went there, I found out that there were songs that no one else sings. And the reason no one else sings them is because they speak specifically about things that they believe that no one else believes.
Mhm.
So yeah, yeah, I found that out. And then I was like, oh, we got to figure out if they've been recorded. But yeah, I mean, it was like the Alabama Astronaut, the podcast is like 9 hours long.
Yeah, yeah. I was like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
am totally going to dive more into it because I did listen to a
yeah,
little bit of it, but I just thought it was so fascinating that you did that, and
yeah.
I wanted to kind of segue that into another question. So, like we've talked about, you've done so many things. How do you kind of keep inspired as like life gets so crazy? I mean, I know it can be so easy just to pick one thing and kind of stick with it. But I don't think that way. Like I probably I'm always balancing multiple things, and I feel like some of my a lot of my favorite creatives kind of do like they're not just doing one thing. They have all these other projects, and it's busy, but I think it's so rewarding. But what inspires you, and how do you stay inspired?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't, um, that's not where I struggle is the inspiration. Where I struggle is finding time to bring the things that I'm inspired by to bring them to fruition. Because
Hmm.
I've always got so many projects that I'm on
I feel
that,
that.
yeah, I mean, but I'm inspired to do them, and that's how they're coming out. I am inspired to do them, and just the ideas, I cherish every idea because I feel like they're gifts. Like sometimes there's a spark, you know, and I've learned to cherish those sparks because I don't know if they're coming from within or without, but I'm just thankful for them. And so whenever I get that spark, I just like, okay, it's time to pursue.
Hmm.
And sometimes, I mean, I've been working on stuff. I mean, this serpent handling thing, I've been working on it for over 5 years. You know,
Hmm.
that's like I don't know, like an eighth of my life or something. You know what I mean? I've been
Hmm.
working an eighth of my life on one thing. So it's like but I just go into it knowing that, and I just I allot time as I have it to bring those kind of things to a place where that I can put them out for other folks to enjoy them.
Yeah, I get that. I'm still trying to figure out like time for all of these things too, especially like right now when I'm in my PhD program and I'm writing
Oh
papers. But I was
man,
like, I still want to do this show because it's something that I'm like
yeah,
super inspired by, and it kind of blends in with the research. So the time management is it's definitely an art that you have to learn, and then it feels
yeah,
like sometimes, the universe works in funny ways, and you'll have a mysterious like pocket of time where you can just take that in, or sometimes I'll just get, and I don't know if you feel the way, I'll be like, okay, I need to do this thing now. Like, I don't care that I have stuff that I have to do. I'm just going to make that time and just be
yeah,
able to handle both things at the same time, even though it's a little overwhelming.
yeah. Yeah, that's what you got to do. I mean, maybe I need to have a void of inspiration for a while so I can just focus on what I need to get done.
You never have writer's block or artist
Uh,
block?
well, when I have writer's block, I just start painting.
Yeah,
When I have painter's block, I just start writing.
that's a good trade-off.
Yeah, when I get tired of both of those things, I just go. I'll go raid some library somewhere and start trying to research out something I'm interested in, and I just try to figure out another story to tell.
That's
And
awesome.
I think when you have a lot of when you I'm fortunate in that I'm really fortunate in that I'm able to do several different things that people care about.
Hmm.
And because there's a lot of people that can do several things, but to have several things that people care about them, so it enables me, it gives me a certain type of freedom, you see, because like I can make paintings and survive, like pay. I got a family of five.
Hmm.
I can make paintings and do that, or I can just go out on the road and play shows and do that. You know. and or we can put out podcasts. The podcast doesn't make us so, hardly, it makes us no money, but I don't
Mhm.
really know how to monetize those things.
Mhm.
But um, I'm just fortunate to have things, just a lot of things. And if
Mhm.
you add them all together, it equals a life.
Yeah, that's so inspiring. And I want to talk more about your paintings. So you said you got into painting in your mid-20s, same time that you kind of got into songwriting. So did you ever like paint as a kid? Was like art something that interested you, or was it not until like your 20s you're like, oh, and what started that for you?
Yeah, I mean, my mom has drawings and stuff I did when I was a kid, but they were very, I mean, it was just like kid stuff.
Yeah.
I never made art. When I got to be about middle school or so, all I cared about was ball,
Hmm.
football, baseball, basketball. That's all I cared about. I'd just play one right after another. And art would have got in the way of all that.
Hmm.
But then whenever I was pastor in the church up in Kentucky, I was I was in such a pitiful state at that time
Hmm.
that I saw no way out.
Hmm.
And it was where I turned. It just I was tried to write songs. I went to Walmart and bought some little paints and tried to paint what I was feeling, try to paint my way out of it. And honestly, that's exactly how I did survive all of that. It was just, turning to art was a way for me to create a new version of myself.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
so inspiring. Yeah, I love that. I also like do art as a form of stress relief. I got my bachelor's degree in digital art. I'm not like a huge traditional art person, but my mom, like always growing up, she would always do paintings and caricatures and art. And I've been, playing with paint since I was little. And I have a little setup in my home back in Mississippi where I have all these kinds of paints and watercolors. So I love that. And I love your work. And I love like the kind of character styles that you've almost formed. Like your art has such a significant style and design. Did you kind of adapt into that? Or was it something that you always kind of just painted people in that sort of distinct style? Did anything inspire you? And when it came to that, like your kind of caricatures, or I don't know how you'd call it or describe it.
Yeah, when I never took an art class or nothing. I just when I started painting, I paint with roofing tar.
Mhm.
I started that really early on. Maybe a year into painting, I started painting on roofing tar.
Mhm.
And then the first time I ever did it, that was I carve like the black lines in my paintings are me carving into the tar. And so that's what they look like. That's just the first thing I ever made. And then I looked at it and it made me feel better.
Mhm.
And so I just they've probably over the years, they've maybe been different variations on that, but that was just the first way I started painting. It was what come out of my heart, and it's just kind of what I make. And I painted for a decade, uh, and just put them in the closet. And then in 2018, I had my first record
Mhm.
deal, and
Yes.
was when I was putting out my record, uh, my publicist at that time and my manager at that time said we need to book you an art show because they saw my art, and they
Mhm.
said we'll make your album release show an art show as well. And so at my very first album release show, I also debuted my visual art. And that was February of 2018. And within, a couple years, I had my first showing at the Alabama Contemporary Arts Center. So it took legs, grew legs, you know. But people think people think that it just happened real fast. But I mean, I was painting for 10 years before I had the nerve to put them in front of folks.
Mhm. Wow, that's super inspiring. Yeah, I was gonna ask like how did you kind of get in and to galleries and stuff, but I love how that tied seamlessly in with your music. And another question that I'm interested in the world of art, I recently got to listen to Will Johnson talk about painting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a show at Rocker Gallery, and Jason actually interviewed him. But in that, he talked about how there'd be processes in times like he'd be doing a painting and it just wouldn't be going a certain way and he would just stop and he would just throw it away. Like what is have you had like what is your creative processes? Like do you get into blocks like that? And because I think, every artist kind of does it differently. I know some people will let it ruminate and maybe they'll tweak it or some will just like rip it up and burn it. I think that's what Will did. Will would just toss it. And I think that's so interesting to me to learn about the different methods. But like, have you had instances like that, or have all your paintings kind of gone the way that you envision them?
Yeah, so I'm for and am fortunate in that with working on tar.
Hmm.
Uh, if whenever I don't like something, I just paint it over and do it again. And because the uh, the surface, once I paint it up, well, it's just right back to new.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I don't feel the need to go out and throw anything away. I'll just paint over it and do it again. But yeah, I mean most of my paintings uh have have at some point been fixed,
Hmm.
in the I mean, I say fixed, but made. I didn't like something, and so I paint over it, and then I do it again, to where I do like it.
Yeah, I never thought about painting in tar. That is so fascinating. And you've so not only have you been able to kind of combine painting and your music, but you've been able to take your paintings and use it with other musicians. Like you talked about Tyler Childers. You did some of the artwork for Can I Take My Hounds to Heaven? You did some promotional work for the Red Clay Strays. And you've even like painted musicians. I saw you did paintings of Will and Patterson. Those were really cool. And
Yeah.
I want to learn more about those stories of like your experiences with collaborating with other musicians with your work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been friends with the Red Clay Strays since we all started together. I mean,
Mhm.
three of them play in a band with me
I
called
was
the
gonna bring that up.
Serpent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we started out, we were on the same label for a while. Um, I mean, them boys are like brothers to me.
Mhm.
And so they asked me to paint that little promotional poster that went out to all these record stores, and
Mhm.
RCA commissioned it. That was really cool. And then Tyler Childers has been a friend to me since probably about 2018 or so. And his management, his manager is a collector of my art, and Tyler
Cool.
has some of my art. His wife's Sonora.
Mhm.
So they asked me if I would help them with the Can I Take My Hounds to Heaven. They had a special release, and I did. And now those records were like $75, and now they're on eBay for like $500 or
That's
something.
crazy. Yeah, it's collector's item now, limited
Yeah, I'm like,
edition.
oh man, but
That's wild.
yeah, yeah, that's kind of strange. But
Mhm.
I did work for Charlie Parr. He's a great. He was on Smithsonian Folkways
Mhm.
record label. So I did a record cover for him. I'm working on one right now for Bill Taylor out of. He's actually a boy from Bell County. He has a band called Bill Taylor and the Appalachian Heathens. I'm doing one for him.
Oh,
I'm doing one
cool.
for Alabama songwriter from up in Birmingham named Ian Cuthbertson. I just finished up one for him on his new record, and there's a guy from up in Nashville, Clark Patterson. I'm doing one for. I did the first Red and the Revelers cover from down in Mobile.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, just from being around and going around being in the scene, uh, people, it's just kind of things, opportunities have just organically made their way to me. I don't go out and lobby for this stuff, you
Mhm.
know what I mean? It's just
Mhm.
these things have just found their way to me, and I'm very appreciative, I'm very honored to you know, to be able to have just even a small part in so many of these other artists' careers. It's really a wonderful blessing.
That's so cool, and I love that you can blend the two together as well. Like, and I know like you've done some of the artwork for your own stuff, so that must be really neat to like, and then see your work on other people's albums, and then have that like kind of take my hounds to heaven situation, where like people have these like coveted items now among collectors
Yeah.
that you have a part of.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I never would have imagined when I started painting that all of this would happen. I'm every time I sit down and think about it, I'm just blown away. It was definitely not my intention, to be an artist or even a songwriter when I was a kid. This ain't how I meant for my life to be. It's just how it's wound up.
Mhm. I think life just works in mysterious ways sometimes, and I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
awesome how things can unfold. And I want to tie that into talking about, so not only do you have your solo work, but you mentioned the Psych Peas, the band that you have, some of the members of the Red Clay Strays, and then you have another project with David Childers called the Satan You Are Liars. I
yeah.
want to know about those two bands and what collaboration means to you.
Yeah, well, Psych Peas are a project. It's like it's basically punk rock.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's more rock and roll than your
Yeah,
typical like solo singer-songwriter stuff.
yeah.
And
I scream and roll around on the floor, and it's like I really love it. It's way different than my folk music, and most people that are fans of my folk music probably don't really come over to the Psych Peas, but
I like it because I love both of that stuff. So I was like, I
yeah,
like it.
yeah. I mean, we, you know, we just love to do it, and it's
Mhm.
it's fun to do. Um, it's a way. It's just a different form of art. It's just like between my songwriting and my painting. The Sight Piece is just yet another page, and it's a different form of art. It's a challenge. It's like a performance art aspect to it, but it's
Mhm.
also it's way more challenging of an art to put out. And but it's more to what I grew up on.
Yeah,
And
I was gonna say.
yeah, and it helps me reconnect with a side, and there's like a part of my heart that's still there, and so it helps me pull that out. And yeah, I love it. Yeah, the Red Clay Strays are just super busy, and
Yeah.
and us playing a punk rock show at the Music Box or whatever, you know,
Mhm.
it's just not high up on their agenda or my agenda right now. So for all intents and purposes, the Psych Peas are just kind of on a hiatus while they're out filling up arenas, and I think right now they're on the CMA award show
I
tonight.
know.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
yeah.
mean, because you've known them for so long, you've worked so closely with them, and you've been on tour with them this year, so you have gotten to see like in real time, specifically like over the past few months, how much they've grown. Like, how has that been for you to watch that and kind of have a part in that when you're opening up these shows with them and,
Yeah, well,
doing artwork for them?
I was just with them for just one weekend
Mhm.
down in Orange Beach, but I mean I've been close friends with them since they were playing 4-hour cover gigs at little shitty bars. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really been one of the great it's been one of the great joys of my life, honestly, being able
Mhm,
to see them rise to the heights. Because I love them all like brothers,
mhm.
and just being able to see them reach their dreams and then far beyond their dreams. It's been, I mean, it's been, like I said, it's been one of the greatest things I'm sure that at the end of my days, if I have the opportunity to look back and say, what was some of the things I was happy to witness, that would be one of them. I'm just
Oh.
real proud of them.
That's so sweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that they were playing Madison Square Garden. Like that was just announced
Yeah.
this week, and I think it might have already been sold out. I was like, that
Yeah.
was insane because I've been following them for a
Yeah.
while too. I remember when I got my master's at Ole Miss, but when I was living in Mississippi, I really wanted to go see them in Oxford. They were playing Proud Larry's, and like for some reason I wasn't able to go, and I was like, man, I could have said I saw the Red Clay Strays in the like 200 cap room. And now they're playing like Bridgestone Arena in Madison Square Garden, and they're selling out the Orion, and they're like one of the most popular bands, and that they've been able to break in, like, break out of like this kind of independent scene and into the mainstream, and then bring people that might not even be familiar with the other kind of music or the acts that they play with, and more of that local kind of Alabama scene to that kind of music. And I think that's really fascinating about their rise as well. And I think it's so cool to watch them grow and all the crazy things that they've been achieving. It's been wild.
Yeah, me too. I'm just so proud of them. And then the other project I have is a collaborative project I'm in is called the Saint You're Liars. It's like one of my mentors. His name
Mhm.
is David Childers.
Yes.
He started. I believe we met sometime around 2017. I had just started, and I had been a preacher and a military man, and was starting in the middle, in my middle 30s, starting as an artist and a songwriter. And David had spent most of his young life as a lawyer, and then somewhere in, I think maybe he was 40, and he went off into music and art as well, and has had a long career, and he kind of embraced me and kind of took me under his wing, and I've learned a ton from him. I used to go up to his place out in Mount Holly, North Carolina, and we just go, stay up there for a week or two and just paint with him, and go play shows with him, and walk in the woods with him, and anyway, he's got a great band that's kind of led by his son David, Robert,
Mhm.
excuse me, and Robert Childers, and so his band is all my age,
Oh, nice.
and so we were actually showing our art together up at Howard Finster's Paradise Gardens a couple years ago, and me and David, we got the idea to just make a strange gospel record. We call it a gospel record for Southern Misfits,
Yeah.
and and so we went and moved everything out of David's house, and for 3 days we recorded, and we made a record, and then it was coming out. We as soon as we got it done, about a month later, we found out that David had stage 4 colon cancer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we just went ahead and released it without trying to do the proper release thing. We just put it out, and well, David's been through chemo and all that now, and we just had our first show since all of that a couple of
Wow.
weeks ago, and
Nice to know he's doing good.
yeah, he's doing better, and they just inducted him into the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's doing great, and I think here in a couple of weeks I'm going to go back up to North Carolina, and we're going to start working on the second Satan You're a Liars record. So
That is so exciting. I
yeah,
love that. And I love how you're able to channel like different inspirations from your life into different types of music. and how you're able to kind of bring in all of your passions into all kind of different forms of art. I think it is just so inspiring. It's been so wonderful getting to talk to you.
Thanks, Bella.
Kind of wrapping this up. So, like I said, you've had a really busy year. You've done a lot of amazing things. What are kind of your plans for what's next? 2026 is upon us. Do you have anything that you can say, or is everything kind of like still under
Mhm.
the wraps? I know you mentioned a couple things with the Kintuck and you're working on the new Satan You're Liars, but anything
Yeah.
else?
Yeah, well, we got the Satan Your Liars. The Kid Tuck thing will be coming in March. I've got a new record that I recorded with Steve Shelley from Sonic Youth.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah, so we that should be coming out January, February, something like that. My partner and Alabama astronaut, Farrell Gibbs,
Mhm.
he has he's made a documentary film about me.
Oh,
That
wow.
yeah, hopefully it'll be coming out maybe January, February, March, something like that.
Oh, I can't wait to watch that.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna be going up to New York City and doing a residency up there once a month for a while. Up in
Oh,
the
nice.
Cafe Wa in the Greenwich Village.
Oh, nice. For
Uh,
music or art?
yeah, I'm going to be playing shows. It's like one of the first places that I think it's the first place Bob Dylan played.
Whoa, that must be full circle moment for you.
Yeah, it's one of those basement. It's if you watch that movie called A Complete Unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah, that venue was kind of in. It was in there, but yeah, I'm going to be going up to that venue and playing once a month. Trying to build a thing up there in New York City. See if we can do it.
That's awesome. That is so
Yeah.
cool. Well, it's just been such a joy being able to talk to you. I really appreciate having you on.